July 1935. A young entomologist steps off a boat in Queensland, Australia. And in his hands, he's holding a box containing exactly 102 large South American amphibians. That young guy was Reginald Mungomery, and he'd been sent by the Australian Bureau of Sugar Experiment Stations to bring back a biological weapon. You see, Australian sugarcane growers were getting absolutely decimated by the greyback cane beetle and the French beetle. The larvae of these bugs were just tearing through the crop roots. Now, Montgomery had heard these glowing reports from places like Hawaii and Puerto Rico, so he brought in these massive, literally dinner plate-sized cane toads. The whole plan was for them to set up a wild, self-sustaining breeding population and just hunt down those root-destroying beetles in the cane fields of Cairns and Gordonvale. Okay, let's dive into this because there was one catastrophic, almost comical flaw in Montgomery's plan. The greyback cane beetles, they live their vulnerable adult stage high up in the upper stalks of the cane plant. They fly and they climb way off the ground. But the cane toads, well, they are incredibly heavy, they have these short little limbs, and they are strictly 100% grounded. They literally, physically could not jump high enough to reach the very beetles they were brought in to eat. It was a complete biological mismatch right out of the box. And the craziest part, the reason nobody realized this before setting them loose is that there were exactly 0 rigorous scientific trials before their release. It was a completely unreviewed mistake. Agricultural officials basically just copied what they saw happening in Hawaii and Puerto Rico without even bothering to assess what else these toads might decide to eat in Australia, or, what would happen if they started multiplying. And man, did they multiply. Turns out, cane toads are incredibly unfussy eaters. They'll gorge on native insects, small reptiles, honestly anything that fits into their mouths. And to make matters worse, a single female lays a clutch with tens of thousands of eggs at one time. But honestly, the sheer volume of hungry toads wasn't even the worst part of this disaster. The true ecological devastation came from a defense mechanism forged over millions of years back in South America. It's called bufotoxin. These toads secrete this insanely potent toxin from paired shoulder glands and all across their skin. We're talking about a chemical powerful enough to completely stop the heart of a predator that tries to bite or swallow it. And, crucially, native Australian predators had absolute zero evolved wariness against this incredibly alien chemical. And this brilliantly illustrates just how fast an ecosystem can unravel. When these naive native predators attempted to eat the slow-moving, seemingly easy prey, they suffered fatal poisoning, often within minutes. Entire populations just collapsed. The already vulnerable quoll, which is this really fascinating carnivorous marsupial, saw population declines of more than 90% right in the toad's path. Goannas, freshwater crocodiles, and multiple snake species all experienced severe population crashes as these toxic amphibians marched across regions like Kakadu National Park and the Top End. So, with absolutely no natural predators surviving the encounter to keep them in check, the sheer speed of their expansion was staggering. Within just a few years of that initial 1935 release, they exploded out of the sugarcane fields. By the late 20th century, they had aggressively crossed the border into the Northern Territory. And by the early 21st century, this unstoppable biological wave was sweeping relentlessly right across the continent, eventually reaching Western Australia. But here is where things get truly wild. And this completely caught researchers off guard. As scientists tracked this decades-long advance, they realized the toads weren't just moving and multiplying. They were literally turbocharging their own evolution on the fly. It's this phenomenon called spatial sorting. Basically, the absolute fastest dispersing individuals naturally end up concentrating at the very front of the invasion line, right? Well, when these frontier speedsters breed with each other, they pass on those specific traits for even greater speed to the very next generation. Now, what's really interesting about this is you can physically see the reality of this spatial sorting. The actively invading toads at the leading edge have measurably evolved longer legs. They were biologically adapting to conquer the landscape at an ever-accelerating pace, moving significantly faster than the older, established toad populations just lingering back in the core of their territory. The invasion was quite literally teaching itself how to invade better and faster. Naturally, people fought back. For decades, the government and local communities have launched these desperate countermeasures. You had volunteers organizing massive toad musters, where they'd go out manually collecting and euthanizing the toads by the truckload. Authorities erected specialized toad-proof fencing to protect sensitive wetlands. Scientists have poured resources into researching targeted biological controls, including viruses and highly specific synthetic pheromone traps designed to lure tadpoles. But the dark irony here? Humans created this entire continent-spanning problem in a single day back in 1935, and yet we haven't been able to solve it over nearly a century, even when using the toad's own chemical signals against it. Nothing has substantially reversed or even significantly halted their terrifying expansion. Today, the area completely overrun by this single unreviewed agricultural decision encompasses well over 1 million square kilometers of the Australian outback. To put that massive number into perspective, that is a landmass larger than France and Germany combined. It is widely considered one of the country's most consequential and entirely irreversible ecological mistakes. Those original 102 toads in a box carried off a boat in 1935 to eat a beetle they physically couldn't even reach are now hundreds of millions of long-legged descendants, still out there, marching outward into the dark at the edge of an invasion absolutely nobody managed to stop.